Hello and welcome back. I'm glad you found your way here again tonight. There's nothing you need to do right now except settle in and let your body grow heavy against the bed. Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts loosen their grip on the day, the way a hand slowly opens. Tonight we're drifting along a great river valley into the story of ancient China, a civilization that rose thousands of years ago and quietly shaped so much of what came after it. Some of what you hear tonight may surprise you. Some of it may simply settle over you like soft lantern light, familiar and strange all at once. If any of this helps you unwind, consider subscribing to Drowsy with Facts so you can drift off with us again soon. For now, let's begin. Chinese civilization traces its roots back along the fertile banks of the Yellow River, where early farming communities gradually grew into organized settlements more than 4,000 years ago, laying the foundation for one of the longest continuously developing civilizations in human history. Chinese history is traditionally organized into a long sequence of ruling dynasties, each rising to power, governing for a period ranging from decades to centuries, and eventually giving way to the next, a rhythm of rise and renewal that shaped Chinese political identity for thousands of years. The concept of a ruling family holding what was called the Mandate of Heaven played a central role in Chinese political philosophy. The idea that a just, capable ruler held divine approval to govern, while natural disasters or widespread unrest could be interpreted as signs that this same mandate had been withdrawn. The Qin dynasty, though relatively short-lived, achieved the first true unification of China under a single centralized empire, and its founding emperor standardized weights, measures, and even the width of cart axles to help unify the vast new territory. That same founding emperor is remembered today largely for the extraordinary underground army of life-size clay soldiers buried alongside his tomb, each individually crafted with distinct facial features, discovered accidentally by farmers digging a well many centuries later. The Great Wall of China, though often imagined as a single continuous structure, was actually built and rebuilt across many centuries by different dynasties, with earlier separate defensive walls eventually connected and expanded into the vast network recognized today. Construction of the wall required an enormous, sustained labor force, and historical accounts suggest the human cost of its construction was considerable, with laborers working under extremely difficult conditions across harsh, remote terrain. The Han Dynasty, following the Qin, ushered in a long period of relative stability and cultural flourishing, and Chinese people today still often refer to themselves using a name directly connected to this same influential historical dynasty. During the Han Dynasty, the extensive trade network, later known as the Silk Road, began to take shape, gradually connecting China to distant civilizations across Central Asia, the Middle East, and eventually Europe. Silk itself, produced through the careful cultivation of silkworms, was so highly valued and closely guarded as a Chinese trade secret that its true production process remained largely unknown outside China for many centuries. Paper, one of ancient China's most transformative inventions, was developed using plant fibers processed into thin, durable sheets, a breakthrough that gradually spread westward and profoundly changed how information was recorded and shared across the wider world. Ancient Chinese inventors are also credited with developing early forms of gunpowder, initially explored largely for medicinal and alchemical purposes before its explosive potential was gradually recognized and adapted for military and ceremonial use. The compass, another significant Chinese invention, was originally developed using a naturally magnetic mineral, and early versions were used for geomantic and ceremonial purposes before its practical value for navigation was more fully understood and applied. Printing technology developed in ancient China considerably earlier than in Europe, and early woodblock printing techniques allowed text to be reproduced and distributed far more efficiently than laborious hand copying alone. Confucius, one of the most influential philosophers in Chinese history, emphasized ideas about proper social relationships, respect for elders, and moral self-cultivation. And his teachings profoundly shaped Chinese culture, education, and government for well over 2,000 years afterward. Confucian philosophy placed particular emphasis on the importance of education and merit, ideas that eventually influenced the development of a formal examination system used to select capable government officials based on demonstrated knowledge rather than birth alone. That same imperial examination system, though evolving considerably over the centuries, remained in use for an extraordinarily long stretch of Chinese history, testing candidates on classical texts, philosophy, and administrative reasoning. Taoism, another major Chinese philosophical and religious tradition, emphasized living in harmony with a natural underlying order, and his teachings encouraged simplicity, balance, and a gentle flowing acceptance of life's natural rhythms. The concept of yin and yang, representing complementary, interconnected opposing forces, became deeply woven into Chinese philosophy, medicine, and art, reflecting a broader cultural value placed on balance and harmony between opposites. Buddhism arrived in China from India via trade and travel routes, gradually blending with existing Chinese philosophical traditions and becoming a significant, lasting part of the broader Chinese spiritual landscape, alongside Confucianism and Taoism. The dragon, one of the most recognizable symbols in Chinese culture, represented power, strength, and good fortune, quite different from the often menacing dragons found in many Western mythological traditions, and became closely associated with imperial authority. Chinese emperors closely guarded their exclusive association with dragon imagery, and clothing, architecture, and objects decorated with certain dragon designs were legally restricted to the emperor and highest-ranking members of the imperial court. The phoenix, another significant mythological creature in Chinese tradition, represented virtue, grace, and renewal, often paired symbolically with the dragon to represent balanced, harmonious imperial authority. Chinese mythology describes a jade emperor ruling over a vast celestial bureaucracy of gods and spirits, an organized heavenly hierarchy that closely mirrored the structure of the earthly imperial government below it. The 12-year cycle of animals used in the Chinese zodiac, with each year associated with a particular animal believed to influence the personality and fortune of those born during it, remains widely observed and celebrated even today. According to traditional legend, the order of animals within the zodiac was determined by their finishing position in a great race, with the clever rat securing first place through cunning rather than raw speed alone. Chinese New Year, One of the most significant traditional celebrations follows a lunar calendar and involves elaborate customs, including family gatherings, festive decorations, and celebrations intended to usher in good fortune for the coming year. Traditional Chinese medicine developed its own distinct theoretical framework, including ideas about balancing internal energy and applying techniques like acupuncture, approaches that continue to be practiced and studied both within China and increasingly around the world today. Ancient Chinese astronomers maintained remarkably detailed and continuous records of celestial events, including comets, eclipses, and unusual stellar phenomena, creating some of the longest continuous astronomical records available anywhere in the ancient world. Chinese calligraphy developed into a highly respected art form in its own right, with the fluid, controlled brushstrokes used to write characters considered a direct reflection of the writer's discipline, character, and artistic sensibility. The Chinese writing system itself, built around thousands of distinct characters rather than a small alphabet, developed gradually over thousands of years, and many characters retain visual traces connecting them back to their much older pictographic origins. Porcelain, a particularly fine and durable type of ceramic, was perfected in China to such a remarkable degree that the material itself eventually became closely associated with the country's name in many other languages around the world. Chinese silk, porcelain, and tea became highly sought-after luxury goods traded extensively along the Silk Road, generating substantial wealth and cultural exchange between China and civilizations, spanning an enormous stretch of the ancient world. Tea cultivation and preparation developed into an elaborate, refined tradition within Chinese culture, and the careful, ceremonial preparation of tea eventually influenced tea culture and customs across many other regions of Asia as well. The Forbidden City, an enormous palace complex built to house the emperor and imperial court, was designed with careful symbolic attention to layout, color, and orientation, reflecting deep cosmological and philosophical principles throughout its construction. Ordinary Chinese citizens were historically forbidden from entering the Forbidden City without explicit permission, reinforcing the emperor's carefully cultivated separation and elevated status above the rest of society. Chinese architecture traditionally favored wood as a primary building material, and distinctive curved, tiled roof lines along with elaborate wooden bracket systems became recognizable hallmarks of traditional Chinese architectural style. The Grand Canal, an enormous engineered waterway connecting northern and southern China, was constructed and expanded across many centuries, facilitating trade and grain transport across a vast, otherwise difficult to traverse distance. Ancient Chinese society was organized around a structured social hierarchy, with scholars and officials generally holding higher formal status than merchants, despite merchants sometimes accumulating considerable personal wealth. Chinese philosophy placed significant value on filial piety, the deep respect and care owed to one's parents and ancestors, a value that shaped family structure and social expectations throughout Chinese history. Ancestor veneration played an important role in traditional Chinese religious practice, and families maintained careful respect and periodic ceremonial observance toward deceased relatives, believed to continue watching over and influencing the living family. Chinese martial arts developed into numerous distinct styles and traditions across different regions, each with its own particular techniques, philosophy, and historical lineage passed down carefully through successive generations of practitioners. The board game of Go, involving strategic placement of stones to control territory, developed in ancient China and remains, even now, one of the oldest continuously played strategy games in the world. Chinese literature produced enduring works of poetry, philosophy, and storytelling, and Chinese poets developed distinctive verse forms, prized for their careful structure, vivid imagery, and emotional restraint. The invention of the wheelbarrow, a deceptively simple but genuinely transformative tool, is credited to ancient Chinese innovation, allowing a single person to transport considerably heavier loads than would otherwise be possible. Ancient Chinese engineers developed early seismographs capable of detecting distant earthquakes, ingenious devices using a delicate internal mechanism to indicate the general direction of a tremor, even when it wasn't felt locally at all. The concept of paper currency, another significant Chinese innovation, developed gradually as a practical alternative to carrying heavy metal coins across long trading distances, predating its adoption in Europe by many centuries. Chinese shipbuilding achieved remarkable sophistication, and large seaworthy vessels equipped with multiple watertight compartments allowed for impressively long, ambitious maritime voyages during certain periods of Chinese history. One particularly ambitious series of naval expeditions, led by a skilled admiral during the early Ming Dynasty, sailed enormous fleets across the Indian Ocean, reaching as far as the eastern coast of Africa, decades before major European voyages of exploration began. Chinese gardens, carefully designed to evoke natural landscapes in miniature, incorporated rocks, water, and carefully placed vegetation, reflecting broader philosophical ideas about harmony between human design and the natural world. The concept of feng shui, involving the careful arrangement of space to promote harmony and positive energy flow, influenced Chinese architecture, city planning, and interior design across many centuries of practice. Chinese silk paintings and scrolls developed distinctive artistic traditions, often favoring subtle, suggestive brushwork over precise, detailed realism, valuing what was implied and left unsaid as much as what was directly depicted. The Great Wall's construction incorporated clever use of local materials, and builders adapted their techniques regionally, using compacted earth in some areas and quarried stone in others, depending on what was most readily available. Ancient Chinese metallurgists achieved remarkably sophisticated bronze casting techniques considerably earlier than many other ancient civilizations, producing elaborately decorated ceremonial vessels used in important religious and political rituals. The Shang Dynasty, one of the earliest Chinese dynasties for which detailed written records survive, left behind inscribed oracle bones used in divination practices and representing some of the earliest known examples of Chinese writing. These oracle bones, typically the shoulder blades of oxen or turtle shells, were heated until they cracked, and the resulting pattern was carefully interpreted by diviners seeking guidance on important questions facing the ruling court. Chinese emperors traditionally held responsibility for maintaining proper cosmic and agricultural harmony, and elaborate seasonal ceremonies, including a ritual plowing performed personally by the emperor, symbolically connected imperial authority to the well-being of ordinary farmers. The concept of the Middle Kingdom, a name ancient China used to describe itself, reflected a cultural self-perception of China as the central civilization around which the surrounding world was organized. Chinese court life involved elaborate, carefully prescribed rituals and etiquette, and even small details like clothing color, seating arrangement, and greeting customs carried significant symbolic and hierarchical meaning within the imperial court. Ancient Chinese scholars and officials often cultivated skill in multiple traditional arts simultaneously, including poetry, calligraphy, and painting, reflecting a broader cultural ideal, valuing well-rounded personal refinement. The Chinese lunar calendar, still used today alongside the standard solar calendar for traditional festivals, tracks months according to the moon's cycles, requiring periodic adjustment to remain properly aligned with the solar year. Fireworks, another significant Chinese invention, developed from early experiments with gunpowder, and their use in festivals and celebrations was believed by some to help ward off evil spirits through loud noise and bright light. The concept of a unified, centralized Chinese bureaucracy, staffed by officials selected partly through the examination system already described, represented a remarkably sophisticated approach to governance for its era, studied and admired by later civilizations. Chinese silk production remained a closely guarded secret for so long that, according to legend, the eventual spread of silkworm cultivation beyond China's borders involved smuggling silkworm eggs concealed within a hollow walking cane. The Tang Dynasty is often remembered as a golden age of Chinese culture, a period of remarkable prosperity, artistic achievement, and cosmopolitan openness, during which the capital city became one of the largest and most diverse urban centers anywhere in the world at the time. The Song Dynasty that followed brought significant technological and economic innovation, including advances in agriculture, shipbuilding, and printing, alongside a flourishing of philosophy, painting, and literature across Chinese society. The Wen Dynasty marked a distinctive chapter in Chinese history as Mongol conquerors under Kublai Khan established rule over China, blending Mongol governance with existing Chinese administrative traditions and opening the empire further to trade and travel from distant lands. The Ming Dynasty that eventually followed restored native Chinese rule, and its early emperors oversaw ambitious building projects, including significant expansion and reinforcement of the Great Wall into the extensive form still largely recognized today. The Qing Dynasty, China's final imperial dynasty, was established by Manchu rulers from the northeast, governing China for well over 2.5 centuries before the imperial system itself was formally abolished in the early 20th century. Among the many rulers throughout Chinese history, one woman rose to become the only female sovereign to formally rule in her own name, a remarkable and controversial achievement within a deeply patriarchal imperial system that otherwise excluded women from the throne entirely. Chinese astronomers recorded observations of what modern scientists now recognize as a supernova nearly 1,000 years ago, a detailed historical record that continues to help contemporary astronomers study the resulting remnant even today. Ancient Chinese records also include some of the earliest known observations of what would later be identified as Halley's Comet, carefully noted by court astronomers centuries before the comet's periodic nature was properly understood. Chinese mathematicians developed sophisticated numerical concepts considerably earlier than many other ancient civilizations, including early work with negative numbers and decimal place value systems that made complex calculation significantly more efficient. The abacus, a simple but remarkably effective calculating tool using sliding beads, was widely used throughout Chinese history for arithmetic, and skilled users could perform calculations with impressive speed and accuracy. Along the Silk Road, goods flowed in both directions rather than simply outward from China, and Chinese traders received items, including horses, glassware, and various goods and ideas from Central Asian, Persian, and Mediterranean civilizations in return. Traditional Chinese opera combined music, elaborate costume, stylized movement, and dramatic storytelling into a distinctive performance art form, with specific vocal styles and painted facial makeup used to immediately convey a character's personality and role. The Dragon Boat Festival, one of China's significant traditional celebrations, involves competitive team paddling races in long, narrow boats decorated with dragon imagery, along with traditional foods wrapped and steamed in bamboo leaves. The Mid-Autumn Festival, centered around appreciating the full moon, involves families gathering together and sharing a dense, traditionally round pastry filled with sweet paste, symbolically representing unity and togetherness. The Lantern Festival, marking the close of Chinese New Year celebrations, fills streets and public spaces with elaborately designed, illuminated lanterns, accompanied by riddle games and festive public gatherings. The kite, another significant Chinese invention, was originally developed for both practical and ceremonial purposes, including military signaling and testing wind conditions, before becoming a beloved recreational pastime. Traditional Chinese medicine's use of acupuncture involves inserting extremely thin needles at specific points on the body, based on a theoretical framework describing pathways of internal energy flow throughout the body. Chinese herbal medicine developed an extensive, carefully documented tradition of plant and mineral-based remedies with detailed pharmacological texts cataloging thousands of substances and their believed therapeutic properties. Chinese porcelain craftsmanship reached particular heights with the development of a distinctive blue and white style, achieved using a cobalt-based pigment applied beneath a clear glaze, a technique that became enormously popular and widely exported. Jade held deep cultural and symbolic significance throughout Chinese history, valued not simply as a decorative stone, but as a material believed to embody virtue, purity, and protective spiritual qualities. Bronze casting during China's early dynasties achieved remarkable technical sophistication, and elaborately decorated ceremonial vessels served important roles in religious rituals and were sometimes inscribed with historically significant commemorative text. The terracotta army's individual soldiers, numbering in the thousands, were originally equipped with real, functional bronze weapons, and some blades recovered by archaeologists remained remarkably sharp despite being buried for well over 2,000 years. Each soldier within this same buried army features distinct facial characteristics and hairstyles, leading many researchers to believe individual craftsmen may have used real soldiers as reference, producing an army of faces that appeared genuinely unique rather than mass-produced. Chinese imperial courts historically employed eunuchs in various palace roles, and certain eunuchs rose to considerable political influence and power over the centuries. occasionally shaping significant court decisions and imperial policy. The imperial examination system tested candidates extensively on classical texts, poetry composition, and philosophical reasoning, and competition for the highest degrees was extraordinarily fierce, with many candidates attempting the difficult examinations repeatedly across many years. Successful examination candidates joined a respected class of scholar officials, educated administrators who staffed much of the imperial bureaucracy and were expected to embody both intellectual achievement and moral virtue. Chinese scholars traditionally valued four essential tools of calligraphy and painting, including a fine brush, solid ink, quality paper, and a carved stone used for grinding ink, collectively regarded as essential instruments of refined cultural practice. Alongside Confucianism, a competing philosophical tradition called legalism emphasized strict laws, harsh punishment, and centralized state control rather than moral cultivation, and briefly became official state philosophy during the Qin Dynasty's rule. One of history's most influential military texts, a treatise on strategy and warfare, was composed in ancient China and continues to be studied today, not only by military strategists, but also by business leaders interested in its broader lessons on planning and adaptability. The ancient city of Xi'an served as capital for multiple Chinese dynasties and functioned as the eastern starting point for the Silk Road, growing into one of the most important and cosmopolitan cities in the ancient world. Near the Silk Road oasis town of Dunhuang, an extensive network of Buddhist cave temples was carved and elaborately decorated over many centuries, preserving thousands of religious paintings and sculptures within a remote desert setting. Chinese pagoda architecture featuring distinctive tiered towers developed partly from earlier Buddhist architectural traditions introduced from India, gradually evolving into a distinctly Chinese architectural style found throughout the country. The emperor's throne and imperial seal carried enormous symbolic weight, representing the legitimate transfer of heavenly authority and possession of certain historically significant seals was considered crucial evidence of a ruler's legitimate claim to the throne. Preparing for the imperial examinations required years of rigorous study, and candidates often endured extremely demanding conditions during the multi-day examination process itself, sometimes confined to small individual testing cells for the duration. Some Chinese scholars developed a particular appreciation for naturally weathered, unusually shaped stones, displaying them as refined decorative objects, believed to capture the beauty and character of natural landscapes in miniature form. Along the Silk Road, various religious traditions gradually spread into China, alongside trade goods, including Buddhism, Islam, and various forms of Christianity, each finding varying degrees of acceptance and adaptation within Chinese society. Chinese sailors equipped their ships with compasses considerably before this navigational technology became common among European sailors, supporting the ambitious long-distance maritime voyages undertaken during certain periods of Chinese history. Early Chinese gunpowder weapons evolved gradually from simple incendiary devices into more sophisticated projectile weapons, including early tube-based devices capable of launching a burning or explosive charge at an approaching enemy. Movable type printing allowing individual characters to be rearranged and reused for different texts, was developed in China considerably earlier than similar technology in Europe. Though the sheer number of Chinese characters made the technique less immediately practical than it would later prove in Europe, early Chinese paper currency, while innovative, occasionally suffered from inflation when issued in excessive quantities, an economic lesson that later governments around the world would continue relearning across many subsequent centuries. The Chinese government periodically held direct control over the production and sale of essential goods like salt and iron, using these monopolies as a significant, reliable source of state revenue throughout much of Chinese imperial history. The Grand Canal's construction included sophisticated lock systems, allowing boats to navigate significant changes in water elevation along its extensive length, an impressive engineering achievement supporting critical north-south trade and grain transport. Silk production relies on the careful cultivation of silkworms, which feed exclusively on mulberry leaves, and the entire delicate process from egg to harvested silk thread requires considerable patience and specialized agricultural knowledge. Wealthy individuals in certain periods of Chinese history were sometimes buried in elaborate suits crafted from small jade plates sewn together with metal thread, reflecting jade's believed protective and preservative spiritual properties. The traditional dragon dance, performed during festivals and celebrations, involves a team of performers coordinating to animate a long, flexible dragon figure, believed to bring good fortune and ward off misfortune for the community. Chinese philosophy's 5 elements framework, describing wood, fire, earth, metal, and water as interconnected, fundamental forces, influenced traditional medicine, astrology, and broader ideas about balance and natural cyclical change. Temples dedicated to Confucius were established in cities throughout China, serving as centers for honoring his teachings and legacy, and some remain active sites of ceremony and scholarly respect even today. Chinese families traditionally maintained ancestral tablets within the home, inscribed with deceased relatives' names, serving as a focal point for ongoing ancestor veneration and family remembrance rituals. The imperial examination system awarded several distinct levels of formal academic degree, each opening different opportunities for government appointment, with the highest level reserved for an extremely small number of the most accomplished candidates nationwide. Elegant private gardens built by wealthy scholars and officials, particularly renowned in certain southern Chinese cities, combined architecture, water features, and carefully placed vegetation into tranquil, contemplative spaces, reflecting refined aesthetic and philosophical sensibility. Silk Road oasis towns served as essential waypoints for merchants and travelers crossing vast, difficult desert terrain, offering water, lodging, and trade opportunities at carefully spaced intervals along the demanding route. Watchtowers built along the Great Wall allowed for a signaling system using smoke during the day and fire at night, enabling rapid communication of approaching danger across enormous distances. Long before any faster method of communication existed, Chinese silk weavers developed increasingly elaborate techniques over the centuries, incorporating intricate patterns and even woven imagery into fine fabric, transforming a practical textile into a genuinely sophisticated art form in its own right. The concept of the Middle Kingdom carried more than simple geographic meaning. reflecting a deep cultural confidence in Chinese civilization's central importance, an outlook that shaped how ancient China approached diplomacy and relationships with neighboring peoples. Chinese court musicians and instrument makers developed a wide range of distinctive traditional instruments, including plucked and bowed string instruments, each associated with particular musical traditions and ceremonial occasions throughout Chinese history. Ancient Chinese city planning often followed careful, symmetrical principles, with important buildings and gates aligned along a central axis, reflecting broader cultural values, placing considerable emphasis on order, balance, and hierarchy. Chinese historical records maintained by court historians represent some of the most extensive and continuous written historical documentation available from the ancient world, offering remarkably detailed insight into successive dynasties, governance, and daily affairs. The tradition of court historians recording events for future generations carried significant cultural weight, and historians were, in principle, expected to record events accurately, even when doing so meant criticizing a currently reigning emperor. Chinese silk and porcelain reaching distant markets along the Silk Road often traveled through the hands of numerous different traders and intermediaries with goods, sometimes passing through several civilizations before finally reaching their ultimate destination. Ancient Chinese agricultural innovations, including improved plow designs and irrigation techniques, helped support the large growing population that sustained China's cities and imperial bureaucracy across many centuries. Chinese silk paintings frequently depicted natural landscapes, emphasizing mountains, mist, and flowing water rendered with careful, suggestive brushwork intended to evoke a mood or feeling rather than strict photographic accuracy. The tradition of Chinese scroll painting allowed artists to compose long, unfolding visual narratives meant to be viewed gradually, section by section, rather than absorbed all at once in a single glance. Certain Chinese emperors were remembered particularly fondly for their patronage of the arts, sciences, and literature, actively supporting scholars and craftsmen whose work considerably enriched Chinese cultural life during their respective reigns. Chinese court etiquette included extremely specific protocols governing how subjects were expected to formally approach and address the emperor, reflecting the enormous symbolic distance maintained between the ruler and even his highest-ranking officials. The concept of a unified Chinese identity persisted remarkably consistently across many centuries and successive dynasties, even through periods of political division or foreign conquest, reflecting a deep, resilient, shared cultural continuity. Chinese Silk Road trade eventually declined in relative importance as sea routes became more efficient and heavily used, though the overland network's cultural and economic legacy continued shaping the regions it had once connected. Skilled Chinese bronze casters developed techniques allowing for remarkably large and complex ceremonial vessels, some requiring the coordinated effort of many skilled workers to successfully complete a single elaborate casting. The tradition of Chinese brush painting and calligraphy shared closely related techniques and tools, and many accomplished scholars practiced both arts together, viewing skilled brushwork as a unified, connected discipline rather than entirely separate pursuits. Chinese emperors traditionally performed important seasonal ceremonies, intended to ensure agricultural prosperity and cosmic harmony, reflecting the belief that the ruler's own conduct and ritual observance directly influenced the well-being of the broader realm. Certain Chinese inventions, including the wheelbarrow and various agricultural tools, quietly transformed everyday labor and productivity long before their significance was fully recognized or adopted more widely outside China. The tradition of Chinese scholar gardens aimed to compress an entire idealized natural landscape into a relatively small, carefully composed space, using rocks, water, and plants to suggest mountains, rivers, and distant vistas. Chinese silk manufacturing and trade supported thriving specialized communities and workshops across many regions, with particular towns and cities becoming renowned for the quality of their locally produced silk. The Great Wall, though popularly imagined as visible from space, is in reality considerably more difficult to spot from orbit than commonly believed, a persistent modern myth, despite the wall's genuinely enormous physical length. Ancient Chinese record-keeping extended into detailed government census-taking, tracking population and resources across the empire to support taxation and effective, informed administrative planning. Chinese philosophy's enduring emphasis on balance, harmony, and moral cultivation continue to influence East Asian culture, governance, and daily life well beyond China's own borders, shaping neighboring civilizations across the region for centuries. The story of ancient China, spanning thousands of years and countless generations, remains only partially told even now, with new archaeological discoveries continuing to add fresh detail and nuance to a civilization whose full history is still being patiently uncovered. And so tonight, we leave ancient China exactly where its own long history so often rests. Patient, layered, dynasty after dynasty settling quietly into the next, like sediment along the river that first made it all possible. The Chinese practice of matching a newborn's birth year to one of the 12 zodiac animals extended into broader cultural beliefs about compatibility, personality, and fortune, with certain animal pairings considered especially harmonious or alternatively prone to friction. Ancient Chinese record keepers tracked eclipses with impressive consistency, and detailed solar eclipse records stretch back thousands of years, offering modern astronomers valuable historical data for studying subtle, long-term changes in Earth's rotation. The Chinese invention of paper money required careful government oversight to maintain public trust, and specific anti-counterfeiting measures, including complex printed designs and official seals, were developed early to help protect the currency's legitimacy. Certain Chinese court physicians specialized exclusively in treating the emperor and imperial family, developing detailed medical records and treatment approaches that, in some cases, have survived and been studied by later generations of scholars. Chinese silk products were so prized among Roman elites that the substantial cost of importing silk along the lengthy Silk Road contributed meaningfully to concerns within the Roman Empire about the outflow of silver and gold to distant Eastern trading partners. The tradition of Chinese brush calligraphy required years of disciplined practice to master properly, and students traditionally began by carefully copying the work of respected earlier master calligraphers before gradually developing their own personal style. Ancient Chinese city walls, built to defend important urban centers, were often constructed using rammed earth techniques, a labor-intensive but remarkably durable method of compacting soil into solid, sturdy, defensive barriers. Chinese silk road travelers faced considerable hardship crossing harsh desert and mountain terrain, and caravans typically traveled in substantial groups for safety, protection, and mutual support across the demanding, lengthy journey. The Chinese zodiac's 12-year cycle combines with a broader 60-year calendrical cycle, incorporating the 5 elements, creating an elaborate, layered traditional system for tracking time that extends well beyond the more familiar 12-animal cycle alone. Chinese court records document elaborate imperial processions and ceremonies, carefully choreographed public displays intended to reinforce the emperor's authority and connect the ruling dynasty visibly to heaven's favor and blessing. Certain Chinese dynasties actively promoted the translation and study of Buddhist texts brought from India, funding significant scholarly efforts that helped Buddhism gradually become a deeply rooted part of Chinese religious and cultural life. Ancient Chinese astronomers organized the night sky using their own distinct system of constellations, quite different from the Greek and Roman constellations more familiar to Western tradition, reflecting an independently developed tradition of careful celestial observation. Chinese silk weaving techniques were eventually adapted and refined by other civilizations along the Silk Road, though Chinese silk itself remained particularly prized for its exceptional quality and craftsmanship throughout much of ancient and medieval history. The tradition of Chinese scholar officials retiring from government service to pursue poetry, painting, or quiet garden cultivation reflected a cultural ideal balancing dedicated public service with eventual peaceful, contemplative withdrawal from worldly affairs. Chinese porcelain workshops developed closely guarded techniques for achieving particularly fine translucent wares, innovations that took European craftsmen many centuries of experimentation to successfully reproduce on their own. The enduring image of ancient China layered across thousands of years of dynasties, philosophy, invention, and quiet artistic refinement continues to shape how the modern world understands one of history's longest continuously developing civilizations. The same great river valleys that once cradled the earliest Chinese settlements are right now simply resting quietly beneath a dark sky, exactly as they always have. Somewhere lantern light is flickering gently in an old courtyard, and none of it needs anything from you right now except your rest. You've drifted tonight through dynasties and inventions, through dragons and quiet gardens, past an empire that shaped so much of the world, without most of the world ever fully realizing it. The whole vast, patient story of ancient China, resting now beneath centuries of soft lantern light. Let it hold you now, the way it's always held everything else. Let your breathing settle into its own slow rhythm. There's nowhere else you need to be. Nothing else you need to understand tonight. Just this quiet history and this quiet rest, drifting gently together in the dark.